They shot her point blank, right through the chest, left her bleeding in a burned out farmhouse, while they laughed about it over the radio. Took photos of her body, called it confirmation, moved on to the next kill. But here's the thing about shooting a Navy SEAL in the heart. You better make sure it actually stops beating. Because Lieutenant Commander Rena Carter wasn't done yet. Before we show you exactly how she turned her own funeral into their nightmare, make sure you're subscribed with notifications on and drop a comment telling us where you're watching from. Because this story doesn't end with a body bag. It ends with a reminder that some hearts don't know how to quit, even when they probably should. Lieutenant Commander Rena Carter didn't like the way the air felt. Too still, too clean. The convoy route snaked through a forgotten strip of the Balkans that had changed flags more times than anyone could count, hugging cliffs and dirt roads held together by prayers and Soviet-era gravel. Officially, this was a NATO joint patrol, routine security sweep. Unofficially, Rena had walked through minefields that felt safer. She stood with her back against a matte green MRAP, scanning the ridgeline. Her team was tight, 8 SEALs, 3 Polish Grom operators, and a handful of local contractors whose boots didn't match their patches. Chief Rhodes appeared beside her, square-jawed and quiet. He nodded toward the lead vehicle where one of the contractors was fiddling with a drone case. "You still not sold on these guys?" Rena's mouth barely moved. "Their gear's too clean. One of them called a magazine a clip." Rhodes almost smiled. "You always this paranoid?" When 9 Americans get ambushed on a friendly route, paranoia's just pattern recognition. Dry grass swayed against rusted fencing. No wind, no birds, no locals. She tapped the map on her wrist. "This road's supposed to be IED country. Intel said last week's convoy hit 2 bombs through here." "Maybe someone swept it," Rhodes said. "Yeah, but who?" One of the contractors walked over. Tall, sharp haircut, East Coast accent. His sleeves showed forearm ink, a lion's head with Cyrillic letters, not standard. Something about it scratched at the back of her brain. "Ma'am, drones are up. Full satellite uplink." She looked at him carefully. "What's your name?" "Kavanaugh." "You've run this route before?" "Twice. Smooth both times." "That's not what Intel said." Kavanaugh shrugged. "Maybe Intel got it wrong." She didn't answer. Just let the silence sit there until Rhodes stepped in. "Ma'am, we rolling?" Rena gave the landscape one last look. Ridges, farmhouses, bends in the road that felt rehearsed. "Yeah, mount up." The team moved fast, muscle memory efficient. Operators clicked into formation. Engines roared, and dust kicked up from the rear gun truck's tires like it was trying to cover something. Rena climbed into the lead MRAP, seated behind the gunner's platform. Her fingers drummed the dashboard. Not nerves, calibration. Rhodes leaned in. "You thinking trap?" "I'm thinking they don't need to fake a war here. There's enough real ones buried under this soil. And if it goes loud, then we don't wait for permission." The convoy jolted forward. The line of vehicles stretched too thin, too exposed. Behind them, Kavanaugh's drone buzzed overhead. In front of them, the stillness held its breath. And somewhere beneath Rena Carter's ribs, instinct started tapping out Morse code in her pulse. Not fear yet, just the sound of a woman who'd survived too much to ignore the quiet before it breaks. The first 20 minutes passed in the kind of silence that makes your teeth ache. Engines hummed, radios crackled, the convoy rolled slow. Rena sat with her rifle across her lap, eyes never stopping. "Convoy 1, status green," Rhodes said. His thumb tapped the receiver twice. Nervous tell. "Copy, status green." They eased around a sharp corner where rock pressed tight against the road. That's when the world exploded. The lead vehicle ahead of hers disappeared in a ball of fire and shredded steel. The blast threw armor plate into the air like confetti. Shockwave slamming into her MRAP, hard enough to crack her spine against the seat. Glass spiderwebbed across the windshield. IED! IED! Contact front! Gunfire followed instantly. Sharp controlled bursts from the ridges. Not wild spray and pray. Professional volleys that pinned every escape angle like they'd practiced this exact scenario. "Ambush! Left ridge!" Rhodes barked, hauling the gunner into position. The 50 cal tore back, muzzle flashes strobing against rock, shell casings raining like brass hail. But the contractors? Rena caught them through fractured glass. Three of them scrambling backward, away from the fight. One dropped his rifle entirely. Another was yelling into a handset she didn't recognize. Rhodes, eyes on the contractors. They're breaking. Copy, he bit out, swinging fire across the slope. The air filled with the unholy symphony of a Killzone orchestra, grenades thumping, machine guns chewing, dirt spitting up around their tires like the earth itself was trying to spit them out. Rena unlatched and shoved the door open, dropping into cover behind the MRAP's wheel well. Her lungs burned from dust and cordite. She spotted Petty Officer Vickers sprawled by the roadside, red bloom spreading across his thigh. "Stay with me!" She dragged him in with strength her frame shouldn't have carried, pressing gauze hard against the wound. Blood ran hot across her gloves. Then it happened. A sound different from everything else. A single crack that cut through the chaos like a scalpel. High velocity, precision. The impact felt like God himself punched her in the chest. Her breath ripped out in a grunt, body jerking backwards as the round slammed into her plate and drove deep. The world tilted, edges blurred. For a second, she saw only sky, fractured blue through black smoke. Rhodes's voice roared over comms, distorted and frantic. "Commander down! Commander down!" The SEALs surged harder, tightening their fire net, pulling wounded into cover. But the enemy pressed. Disciplined volleys, moving closer, tightening the noose. Rena tried to inhale, but her chest screamed white fire. Blood filled her mouth. Her fingers clawed at her vest instinctively, feeling heat. Torn ceramic, something lodged deep where her heart should have been. Vision tunneled, shapes blurred. The last thing she heard before darkness washed the edges was Rhodes's voice shouting orders, steady against the storm. And laughter. Men on the ridge, laughing like they'd just won something. Convinced the woman who had held the line had finally fallen. Muffled blasts thudded like drums underwater. Her heart hammered louder than the 50 cal above. Rena Carter lay flat, armor plate cracked, chest caved in with pain so sharp it felt like her lungs were filling with glass. She tried to breathe. Ragged wheeze, blood bubbled at her lips, her hands trembled. Her mind did not. The body breaks before the will does. Don't listen to the body. Her father's voice, clear as day. The same words from when she was 17, holding her under ocean waves during drown-proofing drills. She blinked, vision swimming. Her vest had stopped the round, but it had cracked ceramic and driven into her chest, ribs shattered, left lung punctured, but her heart was still beating. That meant she wasn't done. She tried to move an arm. Agony ripped through her side, but the limb obeyed. Fingers clawed dirt, anchoring. She turned her head just enough to glimpse the fight through its blurred sight. Her team was falling back. Rhodes hauling a wounded man into cover, face grim under streaks of soot. Gunfire sparked from the ridges, enemy silhouettes darting between rocks like they owned the ground. Then she heard it, closer than the others, calm. Confirm her, chest shot. No one survives that. Boots scuffed gravel beside her. A shadow loomed. Rena forced her breathing shallow, chest rising barely enough to stir dust. She let her head loll against dirt, blood streaking down her chin. Played dead because moving now meant dying for real. Through her lashes, she caught a figure kneel, masked, rifle slung low. Radio on his shoulder. Primary target neutralized. Repeat, she's down. Another voice crackled over comms, distant but distinct. Copy. Collect her gear. We'll stage the bodies after. The man reached down, tugging at her vest straps, rolling her slightly. Pain tore through her ribs and her brain screamed to fight, to grab his throat, to end him. But instinct, cold. Disciplined, overruled. Not yet. The boots moved off. 2, then 3 sets crunching gravel, voices fading as they dragged another body away. She swallowed blood and grit, forcing her focus to one thing. Her pulse, not the chaos, not the pain, not the warmth soaking through her fatigues, just the steady drum inside her chest. Slower, heavier, but still there. You are not dead until you decide to stop fighting. Her right hand found dirt, palm pressing down. She braced, slid herself barely an inch into the shallow shadow of the MRAP's wheel well. A cover, No one noticed. Every inch caused more pain than most people felt in a lifetime. Voices came back, sharper now. Enemy moving closer, stepping over gravel with hunting patience. She's bleeding heavy. Trail runs east. Follow it. Sweep the kill zone. Confirm all. Her vision blurred again, black creeping at the edges. She clamped her teeth until her jaw ached, refusing to let darkness win. If they reach me, they'll learn this heart isn't finished. Rena Carter stilled her breath, blood pooling under her vest, eyes narrowing in that thin strip of shadow. She wasn't running. Not yet. But if they came for her body, they'd find out just how alive she still was. They dragged her like luggage, one on each arm, boots scraping, vest catching on rock and dirt as they hauled her body toward the burned-out husk of a farmhouse overlooking the road. The structure looked like it had taken a mortar shell years ago, walls half-standing, roof gone, soot clinging to cracked stone. "She's lighter than I expected," one muttered, Slavic accent, but his English was polished. How the hell did this one lead a team? "Special forces types are always overrated," said the other, tone amused. "They break like anyone else, especially the women." Rena kept her body limp, breathing shallow. She counted steps, memorized turns, noted weight shifts in their grips. Her head lolled to the side, letting her see the dark smear of blood she'd left in the dirt. A deliberate trail, misleading, just like her pulse. They dumped her inside what used to be a living room, broken floorboards, charred rafters, a dusty beam leaning low across the ceiling like it might collapse if anyone breathed too hard. "Let her bleed out," one said. "We'll stage the photos once she's gone." Click of a camera. Plastic. Commercial grade. She opened her eyes just a crack and caught the lens pointed straight at her chest. The cracked vest, blood-stained collar, the trident badge barely visible beneath torn webbing. "They'll believe she died instantly," the first voice said. "Chest wound. Everyone accepts that. No one survives a round through the heart." "Except she doesn't look dead," a new voice said from the doorway. Footsteps, heavier, slower. "Let me check. Kavanaugh." She knew that voice, too smooth, too confident. "You've already got the pictures," the first one said. "What more do you need?" Intel said she might have seen something. "Before the ambush." The words dropped like lead. Rena's heart pounded, not out of fear, but confirmation. They weren't just here to kill. They were here to erase. Erase what she saw. Erase what she knew. The convoy hadn't been ambushed randomly. This wasn't battlefield chaos. This was intentional. Arms trafficking, insider betrayal. That drone feed earlier, it wasn't just mapping terrain. It had been syncing with something. Off-grid comms, private channels. Someone didn't want her reporting it. "Was she carrying anything?" Kavanaugh asked. "Radio, sidearm, bloodied to hell." "We dumped it." "Any recovered footage?" "No body cam." "She ditched it." Kavanaugh clicked his tongue, disappointed. "We needed her to vanish quietly. Now we've got to stage the scene. Locals can do it. Blame militia. Same playbook. She's the only one they sent with the Balkan files. She goes down, the mission gets buried." Rena forced herself not to react, not even to the confirmation that they knew. They knew what she'd been assigned to investigate. "They think I'm unconscious. They think the blood makes me weak. They think a hole in my chest means I'm done. They were wrong, and the moment one of them got too close, they were going to find out exactly how wrong." Kavanaugh knelt. She could feel his breath, smelled bitter coffee and nicotine on his jacket. He tapped her vest. "Bulletproof doesn't mean heartproof." Then, almost with reverence, he whispered, "Too bad. She looked like she could have survived anything." He stood. "Finish it, then burn the place." Footsteps receded. Rena opened one eye and began to move. The floor was cold. Splintered wood pressing into her back. Rena blinked once. Light filtering through broken rafters shifted. Gold-tinged dust sinking into the ruin. She lay where they'd left her, blood drying across her neck. Vest buckled open just enough to show cracked trauma plate underneath. Her chest felt like someone had lit a small fire inside it and told her not to move. Every breath hissed through clenched teeth. But it was breathing, and she was still here. She reached inward, not to think but to find center, to separate pain from purpose. Slow breaths, shallow. Anchor to 1 point at a time. Bud/slash week 5. Cold surf, frozen sand, drowning drills. Men twice her size giving up before sunrise. She remembered instructor Keith, the one with the prosthetic leg who made them run 10 miles without shoes, just to prove mindset beat muscle. Your body'll scream like it's dying, but your job isn't to believe it. Your job is to move anyway. Rena moved. Not much, just her fingers, curling slowly over splintered floor, testing, then her arm sliding beneath her back, fishing for the handle of anything sharp. A broken beam, a nail. Nothing useful. But her hand brushed metal. A rifle, unloaded, safety off, probably left behind by one of the idiots who thought she was done. She checked the chamber, empty, but the magazine pouch was still latched on the sling. God bless laziness. She forced her body to roll slowly like a corpse shifting in rigor, one elbow planted, then the other, her torso dragged upright, ribs howling as the world spun. She bit her lip hard enough to draw blood just to stay conscious. Footsteps outside, casual, confident. 2 men, one humming, one on a radio. I told you, dead as hell, no one survives a hit like that. Wrap her and dump the body, burn the rest. They want zero evidence. One stepped through the blown doorway, rifle slung lazily across his chest. He didn't even look directly at her as he walked toward the pack on the ground. The same one they'd yanked off her body an hour ago. He turned his back. Big mistake. Rena moved. She came up fast, half staggering, half driving forward. Pain nearly blacked her out, but her hand had already closed around the magazine. She jammed it into the rifle, racked the slide, shot him square in the base of the skull before he could finish turning. The second one outside barely got his finger to the trigger. Her second round punched into his clavicle. Third, clean tap to the head, dropped him like a sandbag. Silence, just her breath, sharp, ragged, and the slow drip of blood from her vest to floorboards. 3 minutes passed. She didn't move. Then a voice crackled over the enemy radio, clipped to the downed man's chest. Confirm execution. Where's the photo? Rena picked it up and pressed the button. Her voice came cold, steady. This is Carter. You shot me in the chest. You should have aimed higher. Static. Then silence. No jokes, no laughter this time, just the sound of panic spreading like gas in a closed room. She dragged the first man's gear off his corpse, snapping open his utility belt, stripping it down to essentials, fresh mags, sidearm, knife, flashbang, painkillers. She cracked 2 of the pills dry between her molars, not enough to fix her, just enough to keep her upright. Rena looked down at her vest, split clean, ceramic ruined, soaked red. But the badge above her heart still gleamed. The trident hadn't cracked. Neither had she. Her ribs might be broken, her lung punctured, but her will still here. So was the fight. And if they wanted a heart to break, they'd picked the wrong one. The farmhouse wasn't much, but for now, it was hers. Rena Carter moved like a machine that had taken too many hits, but refused to stop working. Every step deliberate, every breath measured. Pain was always there, pressing behind her ribs, throbbing under her collarbone. But she wore it like armor now. It reminded her she was still in the fight. The dead men's gear gave her just enough to work with. 2 rifles, 3 loaded mags, half-empty medical kit. A comms radio still synced to the enemy's network. She crouched by a crumbling wall and flipped the radio open. Static fuzz. Then a clipped voice broke through. Confirm kill. No photos received. You're running out of time. Another voice replied, nervous, unfamiliar. Team 3 went dark. No visual on target body. She might have. Negative. She's dead. Shot through the heart. Finish cleanup. Burn everything. Rena smiled through blood-stained teeth. They still thought she was a ghost with a clock ticking above her head. That belief would kill them. She keyed the mic and spoke, steady and low. This is Carter. I told you already. Next time, aim higher. The channel went dead for 5 full seconds. Then, she's alive? How is she alive? Sweep the farmhouse. Move now. Rena tossed the radio aside. She had less than 2 minutes. She started with the door, wedging a broken beam into the frame at shoulder height, tied with paracord to a grenade pin. Anyone kicking it open would catch the blast in their chest. Next, the stairs. Tripwire at the base tied to a flashbang nestled in a rusty tin can. Not lethal, but it'd blind and confuse long enough for her to strike. Upstairs, if it could be called that, was a collapsed loft with just enough crawl space for a firing nest. She grabbed a busted chair and used its leg to prop up a window shutter for visibility. Her rifle rested there, muzzle steady, sightlines locked on the narrow road below. Everything else, empty bottles, shattered glass, fire-blackened blanket, became noise, debris to hide her movement, shadows to conceal her reloads. And then she waited, not like prey, like a spider. The first man came through the window, quiet, knife drawn, no radio chatter. She shot him through the temple before his boots even touched the floor. Then the door blew. Her trap worked. The grenade ripped half the entrance apart, sending a second man flying into the wall hard enough to splinter wood. He didn't get back up. The radio squawked again, panicked now. Team 4, status. Rena keyed the mic from her prone position upstairs. Down 2, send more. I'm still here. You're bluffing. Come find out. She moved again, fast, despite the fire in her chest, relocating to the corner where moonlight poured through gaps in the roof. She could hear them outside now, yelling, arguing, someone losing control. That was good. She wanted them angry, wanted them sloppy. A voice cut through the night, amplified by a portable loudspeaker. Lieutenant Carter, this is your last chance. You're wounded, surrounded, no escape. She didn't answer. Instead, she tossed a flare into the courtyard, blinding red bloom against the dark, then dropped the third one with a single shot through the throat as he tried to flank right. A fourth screamed and ran. She let him go, let fear spread its own message. Inside the farmhouse, her chest heaved, every breath a knife. But her mind was clear. She wasn't just surviving now, she was shaping the battlefield. They thought they'd dragged her into their kill box, but Rena Carter had flipped it. Now the farmhouse wasn't a coffin, it was a trap, and she was the one holding the trigger. The shot came without warning. A crack through the night, sharp, clean, impossibly close. A round slammed into the wooden beam inches above Rena's head, showering her in splinters. She dropped flat, breath catching in her throat. Sniper! This wasn't the same crew she'd been bleeding through all night. This was someone else, someone patient. She reached for the enemy radio still crackling beside her and switched frequencies. A new voice came through, calm, smooth, not panicked like the others. That last one was a warning. Rena didn't answer. You're clever, I'll give you that. Farmhouse traps, fake death, calm stunt, impressive work, but I've seen it before. Still, she said nothing. I'm not like them. I don't rush. I don't shout. I don't miss twice. She recognized the rhythm. A marksman's ego, rehearsed confidence wrapped in false respect. She raised the mic slowly. And I'm not like the ones you've killed, so let's see what happens when neither of us misses. A short chuckle came through. Name's Arto, Finnish Special Forces, retired early, rich clients now. You? Lieutenant Commander Rena Carter, United States Navy SEAL. Ah, the Iron Heart. So they were using the name already. Rena eased away from the sniper's sightline and crawled toward the side window. She didn't need to find him yet. She just needed him to think she was trying. You know I've got you boxed in, Arto said. 2 more steps and I'll take your jaw off. She angled her mirror shard, broken piece of car side glass she'd found earlier, and tilted it through the gap in the frame. Scanning, movement. Top of the northern ridge, maybe 200 meters out. Half-crouched silhouette between 2 pine trunks. Long barrel, no muzzle flash. Suppressed, good position, low wind. But the mistake was arrogance. He was talking too much. Rena moved. She exited through a hole in the side wall, low crawl across broken soil, using collapsed stone fencing to mask her silhouette. Her rifle strapped tight to her back now, not for shooting, but for balance. She wasn't outgunning him at 200. She'd outwalk him. She circled wide through a dry creek bed, every step planned, deliberate. Her breath burned, her chest ached, but she moved like a ghost, slow and inevitable. She reached the ridge's base, paused, listened. He was still up there, moving a little now, probably adjusting to a new angle. She climbed fast, low, weaving between boulders, 50 meters, 30, 10. She heard him exhale, slow, centered breath, readying for another shot. She rose from the slope like smoke, rifle aimed dead center. His head turned, his eyes widened. She fired once, round hitting him center mass. His scope dropped. He stumbled back against the tree, but his armor held. He reached for his sidearm, fast, trained, but her second shot took him in the upper thigh. He screamed and fell. She crossed the final few feet as he tried to crawl toward his fallen rifle. She kicked it aside. He looked up, pain smeared across his face, disbelief churning behind his eyes. How? Rena stood over him, breathing hard, rifle aimed down. I moved. He tried to smile through blood. You're not supposed to still be alive. She tilted her head slightly. That's the problem with shooting someone in the chest. You assume you hit the heart. And then she squeezed the trigger, once, clean, professional, like everything else she'd done tonight. She slung the sniper's rifle over her shoulder and stepped back into the trees. She didn't need to say anything else. The man who thought he could end her with a single shot had just learned what everyone else was about to find out. The Iron Heart doesn't stop beating until the mission ends. The sun was just breaking over the ridgeline when the blacked-out helicopter came in low, blades slicing the mist like razors. It had taken 2 encrypted bursts to get through, one from the stolen enemy radio, one from the beacon she'd kept sealed in her belt pouch, reserved for no-fail extraction orders. She watched it descend from the crest of the final ridge, rotors kicking up dust and pine needles, shaking the trees like they knew who was coming. Rena Carter didn't wave, didn't signal. She just stood there in the clearing, bloodied vest half open, sniper rifle slung across her back like a trophy. The first man out was Rhodes. He barely paused when he saw her, just slowed, blinked, and stepped toward her like he was walking into a different reality. Jesus Christ, he muttered. I'm fine, she said. That wasn't entirely true. Her ribs were broken, her shoulder bruised black. The skin over her sternum was an angry mess of swelling, burn, and metal impact trauma, but she was standing, and that mattered more than anything else. Behind Rhodes, NATO reinforcements fanned out, weapons up, perimeter sweeping wide. Medics followed, quick and silent. What happened? He asked low. Rena handed him the comms unit she'd pulled from the farmhouse, then the sniper's radio. Then a blood-slick tablet with terrain scans, routes, and payout logs, all encrypted but unmistakably damning. Contractors were paid to stage the ambush, she said, by someone with reach. Someone who wanted me gone. Rhodes didn't speak for a long moment. When he did, his voice was tight. They shot you, point blank, chest plate. She looked down. The ceramic was cracked like a spider web. The trident badge above it was smeared in blood, but still whole. It missed the heart, she said. Another medic stepped forward, raising a hand to guide her toward the evac bird. But something in his eyes shifted when he got close, when he saw what she looked like. Not just blood, the way she moved, the way she stood. Sir, the medic whispered to Rhodes, thinking she couldn't hear. That wound's... How the hell is she still on her feet? Rhodes didn't answer, just gave her a look. Not pity, not concern. Something closer to awe. By now, the other SEALs were arriving, battered survivors from the convoy, some limping, some wrapped in hastily applied gauze, but alive. And when they saw her, they stopped. Even the ones who had seen her get dropped by that sniper round. Even the ones who had heard the call go out. Commanders down. They stared like they were seeing something they couldn't explain. One of the Polish operators whispered something in his native tongue. The translation came from another's lips, reverent and slow. Heart of steel. No, Rhodes corrected. Heart of iron. Rena didn't respond. She just kept walking toward the bird, boots dragging through the dirt, body running on spite and breath and the last ounces of adrenaline. The nickname caught fire before she even climbed aboard. Ironheart. Whispers through the ranks. Mutters over radios. No one said it to her directly. They didn't have to. She heard it. And for the first time in hours, something inside her eased. Not the pain, but the question. The one that had been pounding behind her ribs since the first shot cracked the sky. Did it matter that I kept going? Now she knew. It did. She sat on the floor of the chopper as it lifted off. blood still soaking through the gauze across her chest. She didn't speak, didn't nod, didn't blink. She just stared through the open door as the farmhouse disappeared behind them in a cloud of rising dust. Mission complete, heart still beating. Could you keep fighting with a bullet lodged inches from your heart like Rena did? Would you have the presence of mind to trap a house, take out a sniper, and walk out with proof while bleeding the entire time? Let us know in the comments. I read every single one. And if this story reminded you that survival doesn't always come from strength, but from the will to keep moving when you shouldn't be able to, hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on the bell icon so you never miss one of these missions. Share this video with someone who needs to remember that the heart only stops when you let it. And since we upload every day, your next story is already waiting. Watch one of the videos now appearing on your screen. And I'll see you tomorrow, same time, same place, with a brand new mission.